All right, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Train World Live. And we have a special Thomas Tuesday tonight, and put together by Christian. And Doug and I are just walked in, and we found out Luke Ryan's there, and he's got something up his sleeve that people are going to go crazy about. And Christian, I had no idea, and I was talking to Luke before the show, and I'm pretty amped up, excited. I think this is going to be a great event that you put together, Christian. And I'll leave it to Christian to introduce everyone around the horn.
Thank you, Ken, and good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another Thomas Tuesday event. I'm super excited this evening to see the upcoming Peter Sam model by Bachmann Trains, and as well to see the real-life basis of Peter Sam, Edward Thomas, in the flesh. Right there, everyone. That is it.
Very cool.
Get over to Wales and see that in the flesh, but just seeing that now, it's unbelievable. And on top of that, Luke has a wonderful presentation set up on the history of Edward Thomas and the Talyllyn Railway altogether. And then something else I briefly wanted to mention, as a friend requested this to me. Unfortunately, this is just to go on a quick sad note. One of our fellow Thomas modelers on the Bachmann Forum recently passed away. He was known as Grandpup on the forum. But I bring this up now, and I mention this here and now, because this is something that would make him so happy that all of us are here together on this night, collaborating through Thomas modeling. And on top of that, his main passion was in narrow gauge modeling. He had a stunning layout, an absolutely wonderful collection of custom models and Bachmann models in the 009 collection. And he's inspired countless people to enter Bachmann Thomas narrow gauge modeling, as well as help many people in their modeling skills. So I think that just a dedication to him, and all in all, he's just so happy to see us here tonight. With that, he would be so happy that we're all here tonight and all together. But on that note, to Luke Ryan, how are you in Wales right now?
Cold. It is Wales. No, I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's great, and yeah, it's a good bit of fun.
Yeah, this is an awesome Peter Sam special edition. Not only will you get Doug has something up his sleeve to go over the Bachmann Peter Sam, but Luke has the actual Peter Sam there.
Just a bit.
Yeah. And also, I want to briefly mention, Ken, last time you were saying that we were only having American guests on the show so far. And I want to say I'm so happy we finally got someone from overseas on the show. So not only did we get one of the most amazing people to be on the stream, but he's also overseas. So that's something else that is off on the checklist. Check it off.
There you go. We're going across the pond. And Luke's the first man who started kicking it off.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
So Luke, where do you want to start? Do you want to just talk about the engine to start, or you want to go over your slideshow, or what do you want to talk about for?
Well, we could, let's have a little, if we go on to the little presentation I've put together, because it talks about the history of. This is Edward Thomas, who, as you probably all know, as Peter Sam, because he was written into the books and the TV show as Peter Sam. So yeah, if we get the slideshow up, we'll go through the history of this lovely engine and how he ended up becoming Peter Sam.
All right.
Let me get my notes. I'm going to take a perch, which will begin in a second. So yeah, as I said, Peter Sam. You all know him. We all love him. Definitely one of the firm fan favorite. So, next slide. This is going to be a brief history of Edward Thomas, the real Peter Sam. Next again. So, Edward Thomas is a member of the tattoo class and was built in 1921 by Kerr Stewart and Company in Stoke-on-Trent, England, for the Corris Railway, which ran from Machynlleth to Corris and later Abergavenny in mid-Wales. Back then, like all engines on the Corris, Edward Thomas didn't have a name. It was simply known as Number 4. The Corris served many quarries along its route, carrying slate and goods traffic along with passengers. It opened in 1859 and at the beginning was just a horse tramway, so there was no steam engines at all, just horses pulling the wagons uphill and gravity pulling them back downhill. Thomas and the other engines of the North Western Railway run on standard gauge, and the gap between their rails measures to 4 foot, 8.5 inches. Anything below this is narrow gauge, and the Corris Railway was built to a gauge of 2 foot and 3 inches between the rails. So was the Talyllyn Railway, the Mid-Sodor Railway, and of course the Skarloey Railway. Next slide. So we're going to quickly veer away from Edward Thomas just to give a bit of context about the Corris Railway, because it's a wonderful little railway. I'd really just read up about it. It's great. The first steam locomotives on the Corris arrived in 1878, and there were 3 of them, and they were known as Falcon class locomotives, named after the Falcon Works of the Hughes Locomotive Company in Loughborough. These were number 1, 2, and 3, and they worked the line together until number 4 here arrived in 1921. A few years later, the 3 Falcons were so worn out that parts from all of them were combined to make 1 locomotive, and this carried the number 3. If you're starting to think that there are some very familiar names being thrown around here, such as Kerr Stewart and Hughes Falcon, you wouldn't be wrong. The Corris Railway serves as one of the main inspirations for the Mid-Sodor Railway, Peter Sam, Sir Handel and Duke's old railway. While Duke's real-life counterparts, the small England locomotives on the Festiniog Railway, never ran on the Corris Railway, Sir Handel and Peter Sam's very much did, as you can see. In 1929, the owners of the Corris sold it to the Great Western Railway, who were more interested in the bus routes that the railway had owned, and they terminated all passenger services on the railway in 1931, leaving only the goods work for the 2 locomotives. Next slide. So the Corris continued to operate under the Great Western Railway, but never really made much money. After World War II, the British government enforced the Transport Act, meaning that on the 1st of January 1948, the big 4 railway companies of the UK, so that's the London Midland and Scottish Railway, the London North Eastern Railway, Southern Railway, and the Great Western Railway, will be nationalised and run by the government, becoming one new company, and this was named British Railways. As the Corris Railway was owned by the Great Western, this too became a part of British Railways. But sadly, in August 1948, after the River Dovey had flooded and destabilised one of the railway's embankments, this gave BR the perfect excuse to close the loss-making line. So, number 3 and number 4 were left oiled and sheeted at Machynlleth, with a very, very uncertain future. Thankfully, the station master at Machynlleth didn't want to see these 2 engines go to the scrapman's gas axe, and did his best to hide them away from any inspectors who may be visiting, with the hope that a certain other little railway would buy them. Next slide. Not too far away, over in the next valley, was that other little railway, the Talyllyn. Unlike the Corris, the Talyllyn wasn't sold to the Great Western and remained its own independent company, so it never became part of British Railways. While the line wasn't making much in the way of money, it struggled on until 1950, when its owner, Sir Henry Hayden Jones, sadly passed away. Thankfully, though, for the Talyllyn, there had been a keen band of enthusiasts hard at work. After his death, a meeting was called, and by the end of it, a new society was formed, dedicating to saving the railway. They were known as the Talyllyn Railway Preservation Society. And after talks with Lady Hayden, a deal was struck, and the society took over the railway in February 1951. The first train under the society was run by Dolgoch in the picture here. and ran from Towyn Wharf to Rhydyronan on the 14th of May 1951. On that day, the Talyllyn Railway became the first railway in the world to be preserved and run solely by volunteers, spurring on a whole movement of railway preservation in the UK and around the world. And we are still proudly run by volunteers who travel from all over the UK and even all over the world to come and help out, 70 years on. Next slide, please. And thankfully, in March 1951, Corris Railways number 3 and number 4, along with a handful of wagons and the brake van, were purchased by the Talyllyn Railway Preservation Society and transported from Machynlleth to Towyn via British Railway standard gauge line on flatbeds. The picture you can see here is the crews of the standard gauge engines. They really wanted to pose with the very, very odd delivery, and they were very happy to see the 2 little engines saved. And the biggest thing, which is so I love, is that these 2 engines only cost £25 each. And that's about £800 or $1,092 in today's money. So an absolute steal. Next slide, please. Number 3 was named Sir Hayden after the recently deceased owner. And number 4 was named Edward Thomas after the general manager, who had both been key figures in keeping the railway running and helping the Preservation Society save the little line. The 2 engines were quite worn out and Edward Thomas needed a full overhaul, but the railway was without the money to do this. Thankfully though, as it always seems to turn out with the TR, we have a member who has connections. And John Alcock, who was one of the early members of the Talyllyn Railway Preservation Society, happened to be the chairman of the Hunslet Engine Company in Leeds. And, he, out of the goodness of his heart and wanting to see the railway carry on, he arranged for Edward Thomas to be given a full overhaul free of charge. So, while Edward Thomas was away, Sir Hayden was put to work and proved a challenge, to say the least. While the Corris Railway had kept their track in very good condition, the Talyllyns had deteriorated. The gauge of 2'3" had become 2'3" and a thumb. The extra little thumb in width was just enough for Sir Hayden's very thin wheels to slip off the rails far too many times. Thankfully though, once the line had fully been relaid and Sir Hayden had been fitted with some thicker wheel timers, steamroller wheels perhaps, the problem was soon solved. Next slide, please. Once Edward Thomas had returned from its overhaul at Hunslet's in Leeds, with Sir Hayden being lesser used, thanks to the derailing problems, and Dolgop finally being given the rest she deserved after years of solitary work, it took on the brunt of the work. Edward Thomas has always been known for being reliable and agreeable, much like Peter Sam, and the engine very much still is today. It is an absolute delight to work on, and you could too as a volunteer. Next slide, please. So, over the years, both Sir Hayden and Edward Thomas were given modifications to suit the Talyllyn's needs, and the first big visual change being the addition of buffers and hook and chain coupling gear, which wasn't used on the Corris. During the 1960s, they both received new cabs of slightly different design to better accommodate the crews. While in the original Railway Series books, Sir Handel and Peter Sam were always shown with the original Corris cab designs, in the TV show, both model series and CGI series, they both have the 1960s rebuilt cab designs, and so does the upcoming Bachmann model of Peter Sam. Next slide, please. But one of the most famous modifications done to Edward Thomas was performed in 1958. This is the guy's genuine name. I'm not making this up. Dr. Gieslingen had invented a brand new chimney for steam locomotives, the Giesel ejector, which looked like it had been squashed. And he claimed this new chimney would enable a saving of coal usage for up to 12%. British Railways had declined his offer of a free trial of the ejector, and he turned his eyes to the Talyllyn and offered them the same free trial. The railway gladly accepted for a bit of good publicity at no cost to them, and the Giesel ejector, a special funnel if you would, was fitted to Edward Thomas. Pictured on the left is Tom Rolt, one of the founding members of the Preservation Society, next to the Giesel ejector before fitting. Come 1968 though, the ejector needed some repairs, and they were too costly to do. So the decision was made to refit the original chimney to the locomotive, which it still carries to this day. However, Peter Sam, of course, had never had this problem, and he continues to wear his Giesel ejector with pride. Next slide, please. So, Edward Thomas in the past has dressed up as Peter Sam, wearing the red livery of the Skarloey Railway as seen in the original books. The first engine to dress up in the Skarloey livery was Sir Haydon as Sir Handel, and was launched by the Reverend Audrey himself in 1982, as was Peter Sam in 1988 in the pictures here. While none of our engines are currently in the Skarloey red, the engines still do dress up as their Skarloey counterparts with faces and their names proudly on display for special event days. Next slide. So you might have noticed that, yes, Edward Thomas was built in 1921, and it's 2021. So it is happy birthday, Edward Thomas, for 100 years. And yeah, we had a lovely gala earlier this year where we celebrated that. And we got some of the other Kerr Stewart tattoos there, Stanhope on the left next to Edward Thomas. And on the right is Corris Railway number 7. Now you might think, but the Corris Railway closed down. And it did. But after seeing the Talyllyn, the Corris set up their own preservation society. And they have slowly been rebuilding the railway all the way from Corris back to Machynlleth. Currently, they've got about a mile of track, and they run between Corris and Moysloth, and they built the engine on the left in 2005. So a very, very young engine indeed, especially for steam. But yeah, so they built a replica of Edward Thomas with the original cab design. And at the minute, the Corris Railway are currently extending further towards Machynlleth and are even building a brand new Falcon steam engine with that original cab design. So it look even more like Sir Handel. So next slide, we're moving on to the Talyllyn Railway and the Skarloey Railway and their special relationship. Next slide, please. So we'll go off a little bit of history about the railway first. And it began construction in 1864 and it opened in 1865 with passenger service starting the next year. The aim of the railway was to serve the local community and the Brynagloy slate quarry near Abergynolwyn. The Talyllyn is notable as being the first narrow gauge railway in the world to be designed with steam haulage and passengers in mind. Other narrow gauge railways like the Festiniog and the Corris may have been built earlier, but were both designed for horse and gravity trains rather than steam engines. So the railway here only ever had 2 engines. The first was Talyllyn on the left, who you might know as Skarloey, and Dolgoch on the right, who you might know as Rennius. But yeah. So the Talyllyn has never closed down since it opened, and we're still operating our 2 original locomotives, 4 passenger coaches, and the original brake van to this day. And it's very doubtful that many other railways can claim this, except the Skarloey, of course. And next slide, please. So the Talyllyn enjoyed, general prosperity, but it didn't make much money, as many of the narrow gauge lines in Wales seem to have in common. But in 1911, the railway and the quarry was sold to the local MP, Sir Henry Hayden-Jones, and he became the owner of the railway. After the First World War, the slate business boomed for a brief period, but soon dropped off again. The Talyllyn continued to struggle on through, with Sir Hayden's vow of keeping the railway running until the day he died. Sadly, on Boxing Day, the 26th of December 1946, the quarry suffered a catastrophic collapse, rendering all of the mines useless. But once the remaining slate had been brought down the railway, the quarry was abandoned, and the future of the railway was uncertain, with only Dolgoch in operable condition, with Talyllyn having been withdrawn in the mid-1940s after major damage to the firebox. You can see it pushed into a little barn on the left there, which is very reminiscent of Skarloey's little shed. Thankfully, as we talked about earlier, the railway was saved by the Preservation Society and its band of enthusiastic members. However, there was something special about member number 79. Next slide, please. The Reverend Wilbert Awdry, creator of Thomas the Tank Engine and the Railway series, was that member number 79. Having seen the advertisement for the meeting where the society was formed, being an avid railway enthusiast, he signed up right away and first visited the railway with his family in 1952. He very quickly became a volunteer, being handed flags and a whistle and told he was guarding. We do train people now. We have processes, but back then it was a bit more ad hoc. And that's him on the picture in the left, with Edward Thomas pulling the train suitably. This could have even been the day where he'd left the refreshment lady behind. So Wilbur absolutely adored our little railway and supported it his whole life, donating a lot of his earnings from Thomas and the Railway series to the railway continuously. And the support from everyone in the chat who are fans and know the connection to the Talyllyn, that's a lasting legacy that we're so thankful to Wilbert for, because you guys all know about us through those stories, and it's brilliant. It's brought so many people to the railway from all over the world. It's great. And next slide, please. In 1955, Four Little Engines was published, translating the real history and stories of the Talyllyn into the fictional Skarloey Railway on the island of Sodor. Everything in this book and future Skarloey books all really happened on the Talyllyn Railway. Talyllyn became Skarloey, Dolgok became Renius, Sir Hayden became Sir Handel, and Edward Thomas became Peter Sam. In later books, Douglas became Duncan, Midlander became Rusty, Alf became Fred, and Tom Rolt became Ivo Hugh. Much of the history of the Skarloey Railway parallels that of the Talyllyn, much like how the Mid-Sodor Railway history parallels that of the Corris, even down to closing in 1948, with its number 3 and number 4 being sold to another railway. As you can see on the screen right now, all of the illustrators of the books took inspiration from real photographs of the Talyllyn, and there was even a group of Talyllyn volunteers at the studios during the recording of the Series 4 narrow gauge episodes to give hints and little, an insight into the real working of the locomotives and to make sure that they captured the essence of the stories the best they could. But I always love finding the real pictures that the illustrations and characters were based on, because it just gives you that real tangible link. And next slide, please. So when Wilbert sadly passed away, he left the contents of his study to the railway, and we've recreated this at the railway in the Narrow Gauge Railway Museum at Towyn. So in here is all of his original furniture and belongings, and you can view it from the museum through the glass on the right in the picture there. What's also interesting in there is his own model railway of Farquhar Station, the terminus of Thomas's branch line. And next slide, please. So, to bring the topic round to model railways once again, as I said, we've got Wilbert's very own models of the characters that he built himself from kits and various locomotives, kit bashed together. He was truly, for the time he was modeling, which is the late 1940s up until the 1970s, he's an amazing modeler. For the time, so clever. Genuinely. So on the screen now, you've got, that's his last model of Thomas he made in 1982. And Percy up there in the corner. So one of the things with these models is you might not realize it, but these are the first ever models of these characters in the world, full stop. This is the original. Percy and Daisy, definitely, they were built as he was writing their first stories. So those models predate the stories being published. And I thought it was suitable to pop Daisy in there, because obviously you've got Daisy coming up from Bachmann as well. So yeah, a little bit of another connection there. But yeah, so if you come along, these are on display in the museum, and they're such an essential part of Thomas's history, because without those models, a lot of the stories you know and love wouldn't exist. And next slide. So as you can probably tell, the railway continues to just love, respect, and cherish this link we have to the world of Thomas the Tank Engine and the Railway series. We have so many volunteers that we can thank from it, myself included, and many others. So early this year, we held a little event called the Audrey Extravaganza over the weekend, over 2 days. Everything to do with the Skarloey Railway and the man who started it all. So the model railway of his Farquhar branch, we had that out of the museum on display with the original engines working. They all still work, and we look after them. And we ran it. So he detailed the timetable specifically down to every train movement through a whole day. And we still run it to that timetable that he came up with for that branch line. We had original paintings, not prints, the actual original hand-drawn and painted illustrations from the books on display, as you can see in the picture there. All of the engines had their faces and names on and were running as the Skarloey engines. We had a couple of props from the television show on display, and even Wilbert Audrey's original hand-drawn sketches from 1943 and handwritten versions of the stories as well from very, very early on. We even had Tim Dunn, who's a railway historian and TV presenter over here in the UK, and he performed a version of the Railways of Sodor lecture that Wilbert Audrey had written, detailing the rich history that he had crafted for each of the railways on the island. And I'm telling you, it goes deep. You know, if you could ask him something about railway practice on the island of Sodor, he will tell you exactly, and it will be completely correct to real life. But yeah. So it was an absolutely amazing event. And we're going to do it all again next year. Please roll the video clip. But yeah, so we're really, really looking forward to doing it all again. It's going to be sleepless nights for me once again. And here we are. So the 23rd and 24th of July next year, if you want to get over, start thinking about it now. But we'll reveal more details about what's going on in the future. But thank you very much for listening to me waffle for half an hour. I hope that's been interesting for everyone.
That was excellent. And you have some more engines in the shed too, correct?
Okay. Let's unplug the laptop. Let's go walkies.
For those people that can't make it across the pond in July and need a sneak peek to get them over.
To go. So here we have Douglas, as you all know, is Duncan.
Wow.
To be very careful because there are pits underneath the locomotives.
That's awesome.
Here we are. There's Douglas, rock and roll incarnate.
Very neat.
And this one will be familiar to fans of the Railway Series books. We've got Tom Rolt, and of course, this is Ivo Hugh in the books. This is probably one of our beefiest engines, and they're only 30 years old, built in 1991.
Wow.
So you'll never see another engine like this in the world. It's the only one of its type. There we are. And the man itself, we have Sir Hayden. So Sir Handel to you and me. Here we are. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and this is Pendray. This is our locomotive sheds here in Pendray, and we have been using these sheds, and we've never closed them since 1867. So this is got to be one of the world's oldest continuously used engine shed.
That's amazing.
Hope you can see them all okay. So we've got 2 more steam engines, Talyllyn and Sodor.
It kind of looks like a staging set of a movie. It's so like I don't know. It's like a movie set. It's just unreal. Really cool.
Plug the laptop back in. There we go. But yes, so there we are. If you can come over to the railway, please do. Please say you're a Thomas fan because we'll point you in the way of the museum and the Reverend Audrey's study. Yeah. So there we go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's unbelievable. I think Christian is going to start booking his tickets now.
Please do.
Very cool.
Oh yeah, gonna get on right after the stream's over. Put them on, no delay. Get over there. No, it's absolutely surreal just to see all those engines in that shed, Luke. And those engines just the years have just stayed that well in condition. Considering how old they are, and I absolutely love each and every design. All tank engines, each has a unique look, which I love very much. And I love Peter Sam's funnel. I was actually wondering, is that the Giesel funnel, or was it actually replaced back?
No. So, as we were saying, the Giesel, the special funnel, was taken off in 1968.
Okay. Yeah, no, right now I'm probably having people in the chat roasting me for saying that. So forgive me for that.
No, it's all right. But yeah, that's the original passing chimney. But as I say, Peter Sam does keep his Giesel ejector.
Right.
But yeah, so when it just came to it, it was slightly damaged. And between you and me, the actual increase of, less usage of coal, it made no difference on an engine this small. You did get some difference on bigger locomotives, but on something this small, it was about 4%. So it wasn't worth the money fixing it. But we do still have it. It was on display in the museum for a long time, but it's just gone back into storage. But I'm sure it will pop up again at some point. But it does still survive.
Nice. Yeah, but all in all, I need to get over there one day. It's absolutely surreal once again seeing that. And thank you for such an in-depth presentation. I think that the Thomas fans are just going crazy and just super thankful, grateful, and just excited to see all that. So
it's really nice.
Everybody in the chat, give a shout out to Luke Ryan for coming on tonight, because it's very late over the UK, so we appreciate him taking the time and participating in this event. So give a shout out and put it in the chat. Thank you, Luke Ryan.
Thank you very much, guys.
And we really appreciate you joining us.
Can I jump in before Luke goes here?
Yeah.
I didn't know Luke was going to take off.
No, I'm sticking around. I want to see Peter Sam.
Sounds good. Well, I'm just going to add, this is the first time I've met Luke, but I did have the pleasure of visiting the Talyllyn Railroad to do research for our models for the Thomas and Friends series. So just to echo what Luke said, it's an awesome railroad. It is such a great place to visit. The engine house, which you can't tell from the inside, but it's all built out of slate. It's just it's the construction of the buildings and the countryside that you see when you're in Wales is absolutely fantastic. And the people at the Talyllyn Railroad are just the nicest people in the world. So I would also echo the invitation, although it's not mine to give, but if you do take Luke up on it, you'll have a great time. And also, thanks, Luke, for that presentation as well. I certainly learned a lot, and
Thank you.
Very, very informative. So well done.
Yeah, and it's just once again so awesome to see how all those stories by the Reverend W. Audrey in the Railway series were based on real life events. So not only the engines were based, like Peter Sam was based on Edward Thomas, but actual specific events that happened in reality became stories in the Railway series.
Oh yeah,
that connection is just wonderful.
I'll take you just around, because we looked at the others, but not a bit. We didn't actually go around Edward Thomas. So there we are. We'll have a quick nosy in the cab as well. So there we are.
Neat.
It gets very cozy when you've got 3 people on the footplate. And Edward Thomas is definitely one of the warmer engines when you're in the middle. I'm speaking from experience. But there we go.
Luke, I feel like you should be your own character in Thomas.
Oh, no.
You have an excellent voice. I think you would be an excellent candidate.
Oh, thank you.
I do have a quick question for you as well. The Douglas locomotive,
Yes.
which is Edward Thomas. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, was it in blue before? I don't recall it being in blue paint when I was there. Has that been repainted?
When did you come over?
Oh gosh, it has to be 7 or 8 years, maybe even a little longer.
Yeah, Douglas would have been red when you were here. Douglas went into the blue in 2018 for the centenary of the Royal Air Force and the engine's centenary, because where Douglas first went to work was at an RAF base, shuttling troops between aircraft hangars.
Nice.
So for the 100th year of the engine and the RAF, because it's one of the oldest surviving working bits of RAF equipment, technically, we did a bit of a collaboration with the RAF, and it's in proper RAF blue with the logo of the RAF on at the minute.
Nice. It looks beautiful in the blue.
It's a bit controversial. Some people don't like it, but I'm a fan. I like it. It's a bit of fun.
Very nice. So, and I was just saying, when I was able to visit the Talyllyn, we got some great photos of Peter Sam, and some of those details made their way into our final model. So, which we'll be showing a little bit later. But anyway, just thanks again. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Luke. Really appreciate it. And this is a great segue because Luke showed you the real Peter Sam, and Christian put together this action-packed episode, and Doug, every month it's like something new from Bachmann for the Thomas universe. So all the Thomas fans out there are probably ecstatic with Bachmann, and they're thrilled to see you coming on. And you got some breaking news about Peter Sam.
Absolutely, we're happy to bring it to you and to Train World and to all the fans out there. So thanks to everyone for tuning in, and obviously to go off of the presentation by Luke, we do have our first painted sample of Peter Sam on hand tonight. So I'll give a little. Let's see. I'm thinking of a drum roll, and here we go.
Yeah.
All right, there he is.
Wow.
Take off the glasses.
Yeah, I've got to focus.
Christian, were you leaning in there?
Very nice.
Believe me, my eyesight is so bad that taking off my glasses, I can't see anything.
That's gorgeous.
Amazing.
Well, Luke, I thank you, the folks at Talyllyn, for helping us make this model. I mean, I did not get the opportunity to meet you at the time I was there, but as I said, we were able to add details to this model to make it, it is a combination of Thomas and Friends features and the Real Railroad, Real Talyllyn features.
I did notice on the picture of the back of the cab that went up, you've got the correct Great Western pattern lamp bracket, which made my sad heart very happy.
We do. And the hatches on the back were also,
yes.
I don't think they're on the back of the Thomas and Friends model. So we added some piping details. We do have as you mentioned, the Giesel funnel. I love the story of the Giesel funnel. I never heard that before. So that was all news to me. So, and as you said, I'll try and do it. I'll do it over in front of the white here. I'm trying to do it on the wall. So you'll see how it is flattened, as you mentioned. So it's very thin profile head on. And then as you turn it, it flattens out. So very, very interesting fun. What is the Giesel ejector? Did you say it was?
Yes, Giesel ejector.
Love it. So I'm trying to get my fingers away to show you the side rods there.
Doug, I can't even keep up with the comments. People are like, "You killed it! It's beautiful! It's gorgeous! Take my money!" Just you did a really good
Excellent.
job. Everybody's really excited.
Actually, I can't see the comment scroll. So I mean, I see the ones you post, but I can't see everything. So
Yeah, they're
anyway, love
coming
it.
in faster than we could post.
Sounds good.
And now
So
what we're taking pre-orders on this, Doug. And I assume everybody should get their pre-orders in because from the looks of this, it's going to go really quickly. When do you expect delivery on this?
I need a magic 8 ball for that.
Okay.
And the best I can do right now is say 2022. I really don't know yet.
Okay. Well, get your pre-orders in because everybody on this chat is going crazy. They just love it and they're just blown away.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad people are happy. We're always happy to bring a new model into the line, and I think Peter Sam looks great. I'm gonna bring up here, even though we always say Rheneas, but Luke said
Rheneas. Rheneas.
Rheneas.
I was told by Wilbert Audrey's grandson that is how you say it. So I'm saying I've the TV shows always said it as Rheneas, but if the man himself who made the character says it that way, I'm going to say it that way.
Well, for purposes of tonight, it's Rheneas.
Rheneas.
All right, so I'm just going to pop yellow Rheneas up here.
Oh, very fun.
Wow.
Just for the color difference. I know I've showed you the yellow version before, but just to show the color variation, it's kind of nice.
And can we see the two models side by side just to see like just to see
head on?
Yeah, like that.
Sorry, I always have trouble with the camera and getting it in the center.
So now I can imagine like with my normal Rheneas and what Peter Sam would look like. until I have to wait till he gets released. That is.
Well, there you have it.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
So,
Christian, take it easy.
Did you get the video we sent? Oh,
yes.
Wrong one.
Yes, we can post it. You ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
All right, everybody. Hang on to your chairs. We're going to, Bachmann and Doug were kind enough to share this video with you guys, so hang tight.
We just wanted to show them in motion.
Very neat.
This is actually on an N scale layout.
That's great.
Hopefully that'll help people picture what they might like, what he might look like on their layouts.
That's awesome.
And we'll put out another video with, full music and the whole deal at a later date. This was just a preview. Oh, I just saw the number 4 go by. So I like the reference that it was the original number 4 locomotive at the Talyllyn Railroad as well. That was new information for me. I guess I should have assumed that would have been true, but I never even thought about it. So that was good to know.
Can I just say, I absolutely, looks running gorgeous. And one of the favorite things about these narrow gauge models you've been producing, my favorite thing has probably been the chassis, actually, because they are so, the actual wheel patterns are correct to the real loco, and the flywheels on the beautiful runners, they are lovely.
Well, thank you very much. And I am going to throw credit right back to the Talyllyn Railroad because we were shared some drawings with us, original drawings, and that is why some of these are as accurate as they are, because we had original documentation. And it's, sometimes we had to make some compromise depending on what was required by the licensor. But in general, I think we got it right. So thanks for noticing.
It's a very nice, very, very nice mesh of what's in the television show and what's behind me.
And Luke, one more time, it's the Giesel ejector?
Giesel ejector.
All right. Wow.
As the stories go, the special funnel.
Special
funnel. One of my favorite episodes.
That's crazy.
And, is that an actual episode name?
Yes.
Yeah, the story of how Peter Sam got the Giesel ejector is called Special Funnel.
Wow.
Okay.
Easily one of the best episodes from the television series too. Easily.
One of the things that some of the people in the chat might not know is the story of Special Funnel is kind of a combination of two separate stories from reality. So as I said, how the guy who designed it went to the Talyllyn and said, "Here, you can have this," and they put it on the engine. That wouldn't be a fun story. So what actually happened to this engine in the early 1920s is that chimney got snapped in half after it hit a bridge.
Oh, jeez.
And that's how Wilbert wrote it as the chimney being hit by the very large icicle and snapping off. So he took two incidents that happened to this engine at different times and put them together to make an interesting story, but still completely true to the locomotive.
Wow. I did not know that. Huh. Amazing.
So the chimney breaking off is genuine, and so he's getting the Giesel. So, yeah, it's fun.
Wow. Yeah. All right.
Going back to this Peter Sam model, I have to say one thing I also love about these Thomas narrow gauge models that was really an interesting idea is that they're all die-cast construction too. These body shells too. They're die-cast, right? Which is like the quality of it is just amazing, And like even, as a matter of fact, I have Skarloey right over here, and there is a certain weight to it because of the fact that it's die-cast. And actually, I wanted to ask, like, what led to that decision in making these like a die-cast construction versus like just normal, like I guess, plastic mold construction?
The primary reason was to give it pulling power. Okay. It needed weight because obviously they're small locomotives. And also, I mean, if you look at the wheelbase, I mean, particularly on Peter Sam, it's such a short wheelbase to get any kind of traction. You definitely need the weight over the wheels.
Yeah, even smaller than Skarloey's. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about the smallest wheelbase I've seen, on this style, on this scale locomotive.
Wow.
I don't know that they get smaller than that or shorter than that. So to answer your question, primarily to get the best performance out of the locomotive that we could.
Got it. Yeah, but I love holding it too. Just the weight of it. It's like I'm holding a quality piece right here.
It does have a good feel to it. Absolutely.
And I know I've said this last time Peter Sam got showed in this unpainted paint scheme back in August, but I also got the blue narrow gauge coach, and I can't wait to put this behind Peter Sam as well as another blue narrow gauge coach, as well as a brake fan.
If that coach wasn't halfway up the railway, I would have gone and shown it you.
Yeah, because I was actually going to mention, these coaches too were also based on
the
coaches.
The blue coach is based off of specifically coach number 4, which is one of the original 1860s coaches, and the red coach is based on coaches number 1 and 2, which again are from the 1860s. And yeah, so like I say, you came over and you got all the pictures of them, and they made some brilliant models.
Yeah, and it's even as accurate to the point where there's door handles on one side but not the other, which is true with the real life models as well.
Yeah,
so
all our platforms are on this side of the engine, so we only have coach doors on one side. Same on the Skarloey.
Interesting.
Yeah, we made sure we got that detail right. So we were concerned, because some people might think it is not accurate. Because it's a bit unusual, but no, we wanted to do it right. So definitely door handles on one side only.
It doesn't go missed, is what I'd say. It doesn't go missed. Very appreciated.
Well, this has been great, and because this episode has been fantastic, and a lot of movement and introductions, and Luke Ryan and Doug and Peter Sam, we're gonna raffle off this diesel engine we had in our window display, so it got a little yellowed, but we're gonna raffle this engine off, and I want everybody out there to participate. How you could win this raffle: take a screenshot of tonight's episode with Peter, Sam, everybody, Doug, Luke, and Christian. Make sure you tag Bachmann and Train World, and reshare it either on your Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter account. Reshare tonight. Do a little screenshot of tonight's episode, and we'll raffle this off. I'll have Christian pick out one winner, and we'll. Yeah, Christian.
And make sure you tag Train World so we see the post.
Yes, Train World and Bachmann, and Bachmann, and because Bachmann has been a great supporter of all these events, so we want to just show their appreciation. And Doug is always coming on these shows, and we really appreciate it, as well as Luke. Thank you tonight, appreciate it as well. But
always a pleasure, and it's Christian, you did put together a great show with a great guest. Luke, it was a pleasure to meet you, that's for sure.
Pleasure to meet you guys as well.
Yes, great job, Christian, with this Peter Sam episode. I think this was a nice hand-in-hand episode, and I'm curious how you're going to top this.
We'll just have to wait and see, because I think we set the bar pretty high this time.
You know where I am. We'll get another engine now.
All right. Well, if anybody out there has any brilliant ideas that you could top a real live Peter Sam, and,
I will say, hopefully Bachmann is still going to be producing a few more narrow gauge engines, and then we may be able to top this one.
Okay.
Hopefully in the coming years, but no pressure.
Well, just because you threw down the gauntlet there, we'll see what we can do, just so we can have a revisit with Luke.
That's it. Well, Doug, and you gotta admit, these shows, the Thomas Tuesdays, I mean, over 200 people continuously watching, and just so much traction, and you could see the Thomas fandom just really excited about Bachmann coming out with all these models, and I hope you see it in the sales numbers, because we see people pre-ordering more and more of all these Thomas models that Bachmann comes out with. So definitely get your pre-orders in, because sometimes they sell out really quickly, and I expect on a lot of these engines, especially like Peter Sam, it's just a home run piece, and a lot of people are going to be ordering it quickly. So make sure you get it.
Absolutely. So, thanks to Train World, this helps us get the message out about our products, and I agree with the pre-orders. Get them in, and we'll get this locomotive to you as soon as we can.
That's awesome. All right, Christian. Well, you put a action-packed show on tonight. I'll leave you with the last words, but Doug and Luke, thank you guys so much for taking the time out tonight. We really appreciate it. I thought it was an excellent episode. And Christian, thank you so much. You did a great job tonight putting this together. Really, I can't wait to top it.
Thank you. And as always, Ken, just thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do events like this, where we bring fans together, and we always have a different sort of focus, whether it's a new Bachmann product, a narrow gauge, it's large scale, another Thomas modeler who showcases his custom models or modifications he's done to Bachmann models. Again, just always a pleasure to bring fans together and keep the spirit going. because that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Model railroading, many say, is a dying hobby. But in my eyes, as long as we can keep things, as long as we can keep things together and get together and keep the spirit going in any shape or form, it's going to live on forever. And again, thank you so much, Ken, and thank you, Doug, so much for showing Peter Sam and being part of these streams. It's always an honor. And Luke, thank you so much for this late at night, over in the UK. It's what, 11 p.m. there, or just about to be 11
Yeah,
p.m.?
it's just coming up 11 p.m. now.
Just going to 11 p.m. Thank you so much for staying.
Thank you for everyone here at the Talyllyn as well for having us on. It's been brilliant.
Yes, and please thank the Talyllyn for keeping you late at night. Hopefully they don't lock you in tonight.
I've got keys. So if any of these go missing, it's on me.
All right. Well, we probably shouldn't say that out loud, but we'll just watch out tonight and lock up and stay safe. And thank you very much, Luke and Doug.
And thanks for all the fans watching too. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight.
All right. And make sure you take that screenshot for raffling off this engine and tag Bachmann at Train World. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Shop at trainworld.com 24/7 for all your Train World product. Have a great night, guys.